So hey guys, and welcome to the Wodesman podcast, a very special Wodesman podcast because we are actually on video.
It is indeed, yeah.
For the very first time. Nearly didn't happen.
Literally, yeah.
Almost threw the camera down the hill.
It was a choke point just then, getting the camcorder to work, but we got there in the end.
We've got it all working, so hopefully you guys can hear us. Obviously, me and Liam from the Wodesman podcast, your usual hosts, but we are joined by some very special guests. Liam, would you like to introduce who we're sat with?
Yeah, of course. So we're actually here with Thorn Wood Forge, the very own. So we've got Sam and Joe.
Yep.
I got it right this time. But very, very talented blacksmiths, and really the reason for our visit today was to come and meet these guys for the first time. So we spent some time down in the forge, didn't we, Tom?
Did.
And it's just been an absolute blast of a day so far. So thank you so much, guys, for having us.
Thanks for making the trip.
It's been
thanks for coming all the way.
It's been just fantastic. Like,
Yeah.
not only have we got to meet you two and actually put faces to names, because we've been all, you know how modern society is, WhatsApping and Instagramming and stuff, and it's nice to actually meet the person behind the account and the geniuses behind these amazing axes that you can see that we have out on show for you today.
Yeah.
But we also got to do some forging under the amazing tutorship of Joe over there. So thanks for your teaching. It was absolutely amazing to actually get a hammer on an anvil.
And we came away with two fantastic fire steels.
Yeah.
I keep saying flint and steels, but fire steels, and it's amazing to have done something like that myself after having used them for literally years. I've seen, and basically all of our tools that we use from one point came from a blacksmith.
Exactly.
Anything metal. So to have a little hand in on that was absolutely amazing, and it just works so differently to how you expect it, doesn't it?
And just to be shown the amount of work that goes into something that we just take for granted as bushcrafters. I mean, I had a bit of a moment in the forge, didn't I, where I was like going on about how I use these all the time with the kids at school, and I've never even thought about the actual process behind hammering the metal into shape to get it to, and the tempering and the oil quench to make sure it's hard enough to actually strike the sparks. And we just got to nerd out about steel all day, didn't we? And
it's been a great day.
Been so good. So a massive thank you from both of us, the Wodesmen, to you both for having us and hosting us and being such gracious hosts.
Yeah, and we've had a fantastic day. I mean, after we spent some time in the forge, we'll go into some detail about what we've been going into, but had a little walk around with the guns, didn't we? So you guys had the shotguns, we had the air rifles. It's been a fantastic bushcrafty day.
It has. I almost got a squirrel, the one that got away. So I shot a squirrel out of a tree, and then we think it sort of got in the holly or something because it definitely fell and died, and I shot it, and we knew where I shot it, but we just, for the life of us, none of us could find it.
It was fairly thick, isn't it?
It
was very thick.
Really, really thick. Lots of thick laurel, and we did spend like a good 45 minutes looking for it.
We did. So we failed on the retrieval of my squirrel.
We did it justice. It wasn't food
wasted.
Retrieval. It was pest control.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
There's
a lot of greys around.
There are a lot.
Yeah, a lot of greys.
But it was amazing just to explore the woods here as well, and just to get to know you both as well. It's a day well spent.
Definitely. So, just for our listeners and I guess viewers now, for their sake, can you explain a little bit about where we are? Obviously, no dead giveaways as to exact locations, but what part of England we're in, and again, that links into how you two, your journey in Thorn Wood Forge and how you met, and
absolutely.
So I think it would be great to hear your origin and a little bit about you guys.
So we're in the southwest. We're in South Somerset, which is a lovely part of the world.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
We're in the middle of a 1,200 acre estate, which is a working farm as well. Mostly arable, but then there's these little pockets of woodland all over the estate. This is one of them. And it's absolutely stunning. That we've got the views all the way up to the Quantock Hills and down into Dorset on the other side, and we're right here in the middle. And we've got the ravens croaking at us as we're sitting here.
Just why There's a raven nest up there, so I'm really sorry if you can hear that. I think they're a bit annoyed with us.
But it's absolutely stunning here. We're so fortunate to have a workshop here.
It is just gorgeous. Like behind the camera, we can just see rolling farmland and fields and the sheep right there. And behind us we've got this beautiful woodland. So we're very lucky to be invited to come and spend the day and the night here.
Yeah, it's not often you get to camp with such a glorious vista. My area is very, very flat.
Yes.
And when it is hilly, it's just literally just conifers as far as the eye can see.
And my woods is at the bottom of a hill, so I get all the farmers' runoff.
Yeah,
So I get wet.
brilliant. Yeah. And we've been here for 2 years now.
Nice.
Just over 2 years. So I started Thorn Wood Forge back in 1st of March 2023.
Yeah.
It was the first day. I've been a blacksmith for just over 10 years now. And I got into blacksmithing because of bushcraft. I was a bushcraft instructor, kind of went down that route, and then like you guys, you use a fire steel, you use a knife, you use an axe every day, but no one ever goes, I wonder where these come from. But it was kind of that bushcraft is all about self-reliance and making what you need as you go, and so you use a knife and an axe every day to do that. And then I just followed it back and went, well, where does the knife come from, where does the axe come from, and can we make these things ourselves? And then I started blacksmithing, worked for a couple of other smiths, and in the end that led us to here.
That's amazing.
I've known Sam for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while now. I think about 9-10 years now. Yeah, 9-10 years. We met. Joe was still living at home. I think I was about 19, 20, and Joe was about 18, and we just bumped into each other at a climbing centre actually.
Oh, brilliant!
So we were both rock climbers as well, and just bumped into each other, and then we got chatting, and he was like, "Oh, I'm a bushcraft instructor." I was like, "What? you go in the woods and teach?" I was like, we need to get this sorted. So, and that was really early on in my career because I'm originally from Lincolnshire.
Yes.
And then I joined the RAF at 18, and then ended up getting posted down to Benson to work on Puma helicopters. And then bumped into Joe at Reading Climbing Centre. So and then I can't remember, there were many weekends we spent on the Hardwick estate down in South Oxfordshire, which is the most glorious bit of land.
Wow,
It's just so rich.
It's gorgeous.
It
really is.
So rich with like life and really interesting flora and fauna, and that's where kind of just like fell in love with just the outdoors and bushcraft and learning and that, and then just kind of since then, like, we've been best mates, and I've just been Joe's #1 fan.
I love it.
And Joe's wife's #1 enemy because I keep stealing him to go to the
Sounds like our relationship.
Our spare room has been nicknamed Sam's room.
Yeah. She's forced me to buy a house close by.
That's a legacy. That's a legacy, that is.
And it's just sort of over those years we've just we've been on so many trips out to like Sweden a lot to see family, friends, and done real big expedition trips, and lots of trips in the UK. And just had a real laugh, and like whilst doing it, and constantly tweaking and playing with tools, and trying to refine things to the best that they can be, which has led us to this point.
Yeah, and I think when you have a friendship like that, it really helps because you experience the bushcraft stuff together. And you have someone to reflect on it with, you have someone to talk about it when you're back home. Like, we found it massively beneficial because we reflect on things we've done together, and I'm sure you're the same when you get back and you're like, I could have tweaked this, I could have done that better.
You draw
and it's made us better
you?
Bushcrafters because we critiqued ourselves and each other.
Yeah, 100%.
And pushed each other.
You keep each other accountable, don't you?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, to a standard. And also, it's sometimes hard to always remember everything. So you're there to pick up each other's shortfalls. Like, we've had a situation in the past, we spoke about it on the podcast, where we were building 2 natural shelters, and unbeknownst to my ridge pole had a section of deadwood at the end. So once we basically finished thatching both of our shelters, and we've been doing them independently, but they were joined at one critical point, and mine collapsed. And I kind of, I was like, oh no, and then we laughed about it, and then suddenly Tom was like, well, thank God it wasn't mine. 2 seconds later, Tom's going to
Because once the weight had gone on that side, mine just went as well. Because they were sort of leaned up they were interlinked.
Absolutely.
But that comradeship of like laughing together about it and like mucking in together.
And we had like, we were
brilliant.
like, we did natural shelter, so we were already tired, and then we were planning to cook and stuff. Everything was to be done with bow drill.
Yeah.
Completely
So we were
natural.
like, right, we've got to rebuild these 2 shelters now. It's almost dark, and we've got to do bow drill. Challenge accepted.
Yeah, and it works out. It works really well because like I've got more of an eye on the workshop. Sam's got more of an eye on the business, and having that partnership just works perfectly.
Yeah, it does work really well, really well. I mean, there's lots of really talented people out there, and it's quite hard for them to run a business and do the other stuff at the same time. So I just said to Joe right in the beginning, I was like, look, I'll do this. I'll figure it out. You know, I'm a helicopter engineer by trade, so I had no idea, but I was just hell bent on making it work. And since then it's an outlet of creativity for me as well, because you know, we discussed it and I came up with the bird names that we call all of the axes. Yeah,
which I want to touch on later, because I think that's such a lovely touch. Really is.
Yeah, so I really appreciate the creative outlet, as well as the ability to like, you know, project manage and do all these other things. That's also really exciting. So.
And it's nice that there's that evident harmony where there's like, you know, a real good crossover, but you know, those areas of expertise allow you to really move forward without any major clashes either,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? So you're not arguing over little design nuances, where you've got the practical blacksmithing mind and, like you said, the business side, and then you can collaborate on your love for bushcraft and push a product that works for both.
And it's that love for bushcraft that's behind everything we do. You know, we design, all the products we design are designed from a knowledge of how they're used in the outdoors. I think it's really hard to design a product and make a product from the perspective of just a blacksmith. I say just a blacksmith, but you know what I mean, because you don't have a full understanding of how the tool is used. If you're going to make an effective tool that's going to be excel at use in the outdoors and last for generations, you need to have the know-how of how it's used, so you can make it perform properly.
100%. And I think we've been handling a lot of the axes today, and you can tell it's all function. Like the form is beautiful too, but that's a byproduct of the functionality of the tool, and you can tell the amount of use and testing and experience that has gone into the designs. And like, we were swinging one of those axes and it feels quite revolutionary actually, and it's hard to say that about an axe at all that's been around for so long, but actually it feels it, because the amount of passion and sort of flair for design that's gone into the axes. And we'll talk about, you can
extremely functional as well, you know, because of that reason, isn't it? It's
because of the foundation and understanding of
that nuance that you can bring to it is something, like you say, tool makers are making something fit for design or fit for purpose, you know, as a generic route, but the finesse, it goes down to most craftsmen end up like slightly adjusting tools to suit them, or depending on how someone sharpens it, will gain its own profile.
Or you know, people making the tools will adjust the shape of the axe to suit the processes of making them. So they want to make the process more efficient. So they change the shape of the axe in order to achieve that. And we do the opposite. We suit the process to achieve the end goal.
And I guess as well, mass manufacturing, you're going to be you're trying to make things as cheaply as you can, as efficiently as you can, and also to a mass market. So you're going to want to make an axe that appeals to a major amount of people. So you might take shortcuts. You might take shortcuts that might be essential for the niche market, but not so important to the mass market.
One of the things that we agreed early on is that we're not going to do price down. And speaking in purely business terms, is like we're not trying to make something to a retail price. What we're trying to do is cost up, which is we make something. We didn't invent axes. Axes have been around for a long time, but what we're trying to do is refine them. And there's nothing really in that space that sits above the axes that are existing, that are produced by really big manufacturers that can produce an axe for the forest, being non-specific, in 2 minutes. You know, it's forged in 2 minutes, which is an outstanding feat. But imagine if you put half a day into that, or a full day, or even 2 days, or even a week. How much can you refine that to make its functionality better, make its form better, make it something that you're proud to have and is an individual and will last a lifetime. And we'll touch on this as well later, is that there's nothing like our legacy as a workshop and as people is to make tools that will outlive us.
Yeah, of
so
course. Yeah.
I'd be so proud that in the future, say like a few generations down, as my great-great-grandchildren or whatever went, oh, that's a Thorn Wood Forge axe. It's number 42. It's the Harrier. This must have been used on loads of adventures. My, great-great-granddad and his best mate started that business. Imagine how cool that is.
Exactly.
That's really, a legacy that we would really like, and we'd like to have an impact on the world.
I think that's really special. And we were talking earlier, we were saying about other brands and we were complimenting them. We were saying that there's brilliant axe makers out there, and really all of the common ones you see people using in bushcraft, they're fantastic tools.
Yes. Yeah.
And we were talking about how it's not trying to replace those in the market. It's all about refining and offering something slightly different for a sort of slightly more niche market, if that's fair.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not trying to, as Sam said, the axe has been around for a long time. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel or reinvent the axe. And we're certainly not going to be knocking other manufacturers, because they do a fantastic job. Yeah. You know, speaking specifically, like Bransford's have been around for a really long time. They make really good axes. They're just
We've
different
been using them for a decade at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're just different. It's like comparing like a third woods knife to a Mora.
Yeah, exactly.
They can do
100%.
very similar things. But they're two different beasts completely.
And we were saying as well, being able to put a face to the craftsman that's made that tool is a really important thing for us. Not maybe for some people it's not important, in which case they could go down the mass produced route. But for us,
only a
I like
touch,
to
is it?
I like to pull out my knife and I know Josh made this, or I know Joe made this, and it's really special that you guys can say that. You can look at the axe and you can know I made this. And I think that's
and I think it's evident that you're not beholden to like time constraints. So if you need to put the extra effort in on a piece to make it either functional or more efficient, or weight reduction, or however you see a piece when you're making it, you've got that freedom, because obviously the sky's the limit with how fine you can produce a piece, but your ultimate goal is to get something that works. So if it takes you weeks to get the right pattern, or if it takes you
and the absolute prime example of that is the splitting axes. So we've got the buzzard here.
I was going to say, with the collar, for example.
The larger one, and we've got the kite, the smaller one, And we spent a long time trying to come up with how we can make a really nice splitting axe in the same style as the rest of our axes, but have some form of overstrike protection to protect the handle when you're splitting big rounds. Obviously, we put a bit of a beard on our axe head, so behind this section of the cutting edge, you need something to protect the handle
of course.
As it splits. So spent a long time trying to work out how to do a separate steel collar, like a lot of other companies do. Leather looks great, but doesn't stand up in the longevity terms. Separate steel collar just wasn't looking feasible. And then one day I was like, hang on, we're blacksmiths. Why the hell don't we just forge it with an integral collar?
You literally text me, hang on a minute, why don't I just forge one? I was like, bloody hell, you could have told me this 6 months ago.
But that's what I mean, you're not kind of held to any constraint of like board managers and people saying, come on, time. You have that artistic freedom.
And it can evolve over time.
And it took loads of time to get this right. Trying to work out how much material you need and how to place that material. We start with a rectangular block.
So you've got to force that column down almost.
We've got to get that collar down
for those,
and with a big hole through it.
For those listening and not watching the video, the forged collar is just one solid piece of steel to try and you can see them on a website as well, but it's one solid piece of steel, and the collar will last as long as the rest of the axe. So it's not something you would look at replacing.
No, the collar is the same heat-treated high carbon steel as the rest of the axe head, so it will last forever.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I have a particular obsession with looking at that axe.
So honestly, it's been amazing to get to know a little bit about obviously how you guys have met, and obviously where we are in this part of the world. And I think it's about time we crack open a beer, because we're getting a little bit thirsty.
In proper Wodesman fashion, let's crack a beer.
These are a local beer, aren't they, I believe?
They are.
From a farm shop down the road.
Yeah, lovely.
I could have spent my entire wage packet in there.
A bit utopian.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.
No, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for having us. Cheers, guys.
And this is like quite a treat for us actually, because me and Liam haven't even sat next to each other since the wedding actually, which is the longest we've not seen each other in like
been a long time.
Probably 5-6 years.
Yeah, so. Yeah, it has been a while, so it's long overdue. What a nice drop. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, no, really cheers, guys.
Cheers, boys.
Lovely.
That will loosen the cogs of conversation. So while we're enjoying our brews, why don't you guys sort of give us our listeners a rundown of what a typical day at Thorn Wood Forge would look like?
That's it.
How do you approach a day at work?
First and foremost, get a coffee on.
Yeah, essential.
Yeah,
Essential. It actually varies quite a lot because it really depends what we're doing, especially as we make products like axes. There's a lot of different steps to it, you know, whether it's forging the heads, prepping the handles, there's a lot to it. So it does vary, but most of the time, you know, we'll get in, get a coffee on. Like the forges, get the forge warming up, get your steel ready, get the power hammer warming up or the press warming up, and kind of, get stuck in. Start off nice and easy, work your way into it, so you're not giving your body a bit of a shock, and break for lunch halfway through the day and keep going in the afternoon.
And is it normally kind of, would you say you work on certain pieces as a kind of production line, so you'll get everything to one stage, or will you do you generally try to finish a piece all the way through? That's always something that's quite interested me. Like, do you say, right, we're going to do a load of blanks to the rough shape, and then we're going to do the next process?
So yeah, I mean, it's a great question. So we kind of batch produce everything. It's the most efficient way to do it. So whether it's butter knives or whether it's kestrel hatchets, we'll say we're doing a batch of 10 kestrels, we'll cut 10 blocks, punch 10 blocks, draw the cheeks down on 10 blocks, forge the blades out on 10 axes, profile grind 10, break corners on 10. And so you're doing the same process to all of them before moving on to the next process.
Brilliant.
It's just the most efficient way to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And there's always a bit of personal judgment as to at what point you stop and get them all to that stage.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the easiest way to do things. And also when you're in the flow of a process, it's nice to stay there.
Yeah. So I guess repetition comes into it.
Exactly. And then you can be a lot more consistent. If you forged a whole axe and went back and started again, the process of drifting an iron, drawing down the cheeks is wildly different to forging the blade. So if your consistency would be quite a bit out. So we try and forge as close to the final shape as possible, because that reduces the amount of time we have to grind. And
blacksmiths, not grindsmiths.
Blacksmiths, not grindsmiths. And so consistency is really key in that.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I can see that actually. You're not going to want to go from hafting a handle to back to, you know.
Especially not if you've got dirty hands and nice pale, clean ash.
Wouldn't take long. No, I like that. It's always interested me because I guess to me I've got like a romanticised image of the blacksmith from the olden days because it's such a heritage skill. Which is just wildly fascinated me throughout my life. But you know, you kind of envision blacksmith being this person who, I guess it's not so much a repairing job now, whereas it used to be like, we'll make a few nails here and some hinges here, and someone might come in and ask you to repair X, Y, Z. Whereas for you it's more of a, you've obviously got your ranges, but do you have any days where you kind of find yourself floating between different things, and would you say that's a more enjoyable experience, or would you say you prefer that kind of more making a batch and saying, well, I've smashed out 10 kestrels today, like wicked job?
Most of the time when we're flitting, it's either you've got a batch in for heat treat, so you have to wait for 2 hours, so you kind of do 2 hours work on something else, so you're not just sitting around drinking tea. Or you're doing R&D. So if I'm whether it's a new knife pattern or a new axe pattern or just a specific part of an axe that I want to develop and try and improve or make tooling, then you're definitely flitting between different things. And I think you need a bit of both. Some people are really suited to doing odd bits here and there. Some people are really suited to production. And it also, you can model your business both ways. You can do commission work, so it's different every day, or you can do production work like we do. And I definitely think production work is a better way to create a sustainable business. It's the route we're going down, definitely. And it matches our goals and our aims and our purpose with what we want to achieve.
But that brings its own challenges, doesn't it? Because it means consistency is like, you know, it can't falter.
It also makes you a really good blacksmith.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
being able to make one of something is easy.
Yeah.
Being able to make two of something the same, still fairly easy. Make 150, make 1,000, all of them exactly the same. Then it gets really difficult.
If you let me loose in there with, you know, what we did today with the fire steel, I'd end up with either a really long thin thing or just like a spiral.
I know what you get if you let me loose in there.
You just forge it to smithereens. Like you just like hot steel. I want to smash it, and then you're just like, yes.
If you let me loose in there, I'd make the thing we talked about earlier come to life. The gigantic two-handed fire steel. It takes 2 men to lift up.
So, you know, you can do it a couple of ways, and I think having a mix of both is important because, you know, variety is the spice of life.
Yes.
And if you have the production, the repetition, practice doesn't make perfect, practice makes permanent. You have to practice the right thing over and over to get it right every time. Combine that with applying that time and experience and that skill to developing something new.
Definitely.
That's the golden ticket.
One of the other, Joe won't say this, but one of the other reasons this works is Joe is obsessed with how, you know, with blacksmithing, and I've never met a more disciplined person in my life. Like it's pretty ridiculous. Obviously, I've been in the military for about 11 years now, and Joe is the most disciplined person I've ever met. So, you know, we've had some really, like, it's not been smooth. Like at times, it's been really difficult. We've had days where, you know, we'd come in, especially before shows, you know, Joe's getting in the workshop at like 6 in the morning and leaving at like 9 at night on repeat, because things just need to get done. And there are not many people that would want to put the graft in.
No.
There's not many people want to put the graft in like that, and it shows, you know, we've come a long way in 2 years, and I'm really proud of what we've done, but behind it is a lot of keeping each other accountable, being really disciplined, and just loving what we do, really, because you can't, it's not sustainable unless you really like it.
No, and that comes through with all of your products, and like, well, everything about today. Like from the second we first met you could just tell you're living it, and it comes across in the designs, it comes across in how the forge is laid out and the equipment in there, and just obviously in the passion that you guys have for what you do.
We really want to share it with people as well. So we're not hoarding any secret source or information.
That was evident from, you know, the tutorial that you gave us, you know, all the way through that. It's just evident that you've got a real passion for it. It's not just another chore to you, like, oh, I've got to show this idiot.
Well, we didn't actually.
Like, you're invested in it, and but you're not there holding our hand, and you're letting us do it. But you know, through your guidance, I came out with a really beautiful piece. That, you know, I thought it was going to look awful.
And it's like we could see and hear. Well, as soon as we arrived, a workshop next door to your workshop of happy students learning how to blacksmith. You can hear the hammers bouncing off the steel, and that was just fantastic. And we were privileged to have you guys teaching us, but it's not just us being taught.
No,
there's a room full of other students just next door also learning the trade. And
that's a good point, because it's not only just the blacksmithing, you guys.
No,
you don't
guys
just make things.
Run courses too.
Absolutely, we do run courses, and I think it's an incredibly important part of what we do, because there's, within heritage crafts in general, and I think within bushcraft, there's a lot of my way is better than yours. And there's a lot of I'm not going to share my secrets. And we want to do everything we can to kind of blast that out of the water, to be honest.
Good on you.
Not only sharing with other crafts people, like everything we do in the workshop can be videoed, can be shown on photos, we don't care. Share it with as many people as possible, because someone else will share a little nugget with us.
True transparency.
And then share it with, you know, if we can give somebody the same experience that I've had in not understanding where this tool I use every day comes from, then learning where it comes from, making my own, and then going out and using something I've made, if we can share that with other people, that's magical.
Well, you've given us both that opportunity today, and we didn't actually know when we initially contacted you about doing a podcast. We didn't know that was what we were going to be doing. You guys offered us to make
incredible
something, and
opportunity.
it's been a really special experience for both of us. I know I speak for Liam as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's just amazing to have made something under your guidance that we can now use going forward.
Yeah,
I know I can now go back to the kids I teach bushcraft, and I can be explaining how they're made.
Exactly.
And it's just another piece of that bushcraft puzzle.
And that is passing the link on.
Yeah.
Because through ultimately the workshop, and then through you, and then down to with the kids that you work with, like, they're learning about blacksmithing, they're learning about heritage craft, and that's just like incredible. This was what we're all about. It's so good.
And you guys are really fortunate because you're really knowledgeable in the bushcraft world. You know your stuff in the outdoors. So you've made a fire steel and you know how to apply it.
Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of people come on our courses and they really like the idea of making a knife or an axe, but they don't really know how to use it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So a lot of our courses add the context. So they'll spend 2 days making an axe, then they'll spend a third day with an instructor learning how to use it.
Yeah.
Love
So
that.
they not only make the tool, but then they spend a day learning how to use it.
And
And that's
makes
what's missing from a lot of courses.
it makes that tool so much more special to them, especially if they've made it themselves as well.
Brings it to
doesn't
life.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
getting Joe O'Leary to teach.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so he's a fantastic guy.
Yeah,
So
that's brilliant.
that's been really, really good. And we've got a really special course next weekend with Woodsmith.
Oh,
So
wow.
Woodsmith
Nice.
are the guys, Izzy and Moz and all the gang down up there, even top of Newcastle. It's absolutely ages away from here. Up there. They're great. They've supported us every step of the way.
Brilliant.
Every step of the way, and from me initially sort of like poking Woodsmith and saying, you know, we'll buy our axes, please. And she's gone, Izzy went, these are really good, these are fantastic, and I really appreciate that, and she's backed us all the way. So next weekend we've got a 2-day carving axe making, 3-day, carving axe making course, and then on the third day they're going to be using that axe to rough out a spoon blank and a bowl.
Nice.
All on the third day. So you're making this axe that you can use, and then you take away those skills. Like, it's not, I explained this to you guys earlier, it's not a blacksmith experience course.
No.
That's not what we run here. We run a blacksmithing teaching course where you can take away these skills, and we get many people from the courses that get back in touch with us and say, oh, I was thinking about getting a forge now, or I was thinking about, what can I can't really find an anvil, what can I use instead? And
That's
then you go,
immediately what I thought. I need an anvil now.
exactly. And we sort of go, here's a couple of links, have a look out for this on eBay, whatnot, it won't cost you that much. And then just don't burn your house down, and then or your garage
Or
down.
at least don't blame us.
Yeah, don't blame us. And then make some stuff in your garage, and then they can do it as well.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. You can become a lot more self-sufficient that way.
And blacksmithing in the UK almost completely died out.
Yeah.
So, in the kind of resurgence started in the 60s when the UK car industry collapsed because all the panel beaters became blacksmiths. That's why the ball peen is the quintessential British blacksmith's hammer. It's not traditionally a blacksmith's hammer. It comes out of the coach building industry.
Panel beating, that's amazing.
But they all became blacksmiths, and that kind of started the resurgence of blacksmithing in the UK.
Wow.
But we nearly completely lost it. And Sam and I are both in our 20s.
Yeah.
Or just.
5 months.
We're both older.
But for us, it's really important to not only be young people trying to make it in business, but young people keeping on this tradition of the heritage craft.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
not only that, but combining the traditional techniques with modern materials.
Yeah, that's literally right up my alley, because again, as the listeners or viewers may know, I work with traditional masonry, so it's very much in the same kind of preserving those skills are so important, because once they are lost forever. And certain nuances come with those skills. It's little tidbits of information, and once they're gone forever, and you've got to have the whole rediscovery phase again. And that's where I liked what you said about the collaboration, not and cooperation with other makers and stuff, because it not only drives the innovative space, but it also helps boost the whole place.
Exactly.
It's how we spoke about bushcrafters in the past.
We always
we can
talk
elevate
about
the
it.
whole area.
We don't see a need
works as
for
in everyone's favour, doesn't
Absolutely.
we don't see really a need for gatekeeping and negativity.
No.
We think it's about skill sharing. I remember a really sweet moment where I just taught a spoon carving class, and a family came over to my campsite because they'd heard the axes and stuff during the day, and they came over when all the clients had gone, and they were struggling to light their fire, and they were like, would you mind helping me with my fire? So I said, yeah, me and your kid can light it together. So
Nice.
I taught the kid to use my fire still to light his fire, and like just the look of delight on that kid and the mum's face, and the mum was like, thank you so much. I was like, no, it's no problem, like look how happy it is.
And like maybe 1,000, not even 1,000 years ago, that would have been like a staple of humankind. It makes me think, you know, talking about the skills that you lose, what have we lost from the natural world? What skills have we lost from the natural world? And more excitingly, what can we now rediscover?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the resurgence in bushcraft is going to lead that charge in rediscovering nature. And there was a really good book Robert McFarlane released for kids. It's called The Lost Lost Words, and it was all about words disappearing from children's dictionaries.
Right.
And they were all nature words because kids didn't have to use them.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the exact synopsis of the book, but it was a really eye-opening thing because kids aren't using these natural words, and I think the resurgence in bushcraft and heritage crafts, hopefully we're going to see those words come back into use.
Yeah, we can see that in evidence in like what you're doing with your students at school. That's like one step of the journey, isn't it?
And the students here, maybe they'll come
and that reinforcement of, you know, not only people getting interested into it, but reinforcing it at a younger age is really the key, because I think so many traditional skills and heritage, so much of the heritage sector is looked at as that. It's kind of like it's this thing on the side that you know, but really it's got so many links to everything that we rely on today in modernity, you know.
And actually, if people are trying to live more sustainably, they're trying to be more conscious about their purchases and their choices.
We've got a lot to learn from the past.
Looking at a company like Thorn Wood would be a much more sensible choice in terms of that outlook of trying to live a more sort of small, locally sourced, supporting craftsmen from the local area.
We do what we can in that regard. Like obviously, blacksmithing isn't the most ecological craft because you're burning something to create heat.
Well, of course.
But you know, we do everything we can. Like the leather for the sheaths comes from half an hour down the road. The last oak bark tannery in the UK, J&FJ Baker in Collerton.
Amazing.
We get all our leather from them for the knife sheaths, for the axe sheaths, for everything.
And you said that was traditionally oak tanned.
Oak bark tanned.
Oak bark tanned.
It takes 15 months to go from a skin to a tan piece of hide.
I mean, that in itself is worth noting and respecting. Just the amount of craftsmanship just in the leather before you've even done anything with it, the actual time that someone's put into making the best quality leather they can, which you've then made the best quality sheath
and then
you can
exactly, and going on to the quality sheaths, if we do a little bit of anatomy of our axes, we hand stitch them all. So
love that.
They're all hand stitched, which means that when you do a saddle stitch, if you were to accidentally nick one of the threads, there are wax threads, if you would nick one of them, it wouldn't unravel because every single stitch is a knot.
Love that.
So and also it's not riveted, so, and obviously rivets can wear over time through the leather, and you've got other problems with rivets. So
I've had some go rusty on axes I've had before.
Yeah, or if you cut through, then you can nick it with your axe blade. And
that's what I did on my grand swords.
Yeah, so you've got a hand stitched piece of leather, and what Joe didn't mention as well, the leathers was used for to make the shoes of King Charles for his coronation. So like there is, when we were talking earlier about that price,
there is
not
no
price
better.
down, cost up mentality. We're just trying to make the best things that we can, and then
and the tanning itself is like a heritage craft in itself. They're using
100%.
oak bark,
and it's
probably locally sourced or as locally sourced as they can get it.
It is.
And the skill in that, you know, it's
well, you know, tanning hides regularly yourself.
Of course.
In order to get the
itself.
bark, because they have to, the bark they use for tanning has to come from fairly small diameter trees, because as soon as the diameter grows, you get really thick, really craggy bark that's no good for tanning because it doesn't contain any tannins. So they have to get their bark from oak coppice, which relies on the coppicing heritage craft by itself, simply to get the raw material.
I love that.
For and all
which requires
using heritage tools. And then you've got a full loop. You've got a full cycle there.
Mind blown.
all the skins are from local cows, you know. And then we use an English company. They're based up in Huddersfield, who copy lathe all the handles before we then finish them in house. And there's certain things that you just can't get locally. The steel for the axes, that comes from Sweden.
Yep.
You can't get it in the UK. However, for our knives, we use a steel called 52-100, which is one of the few steels still made in Sheffield.
Right.
It helps.
Brilliant.
It is one of the best performing steels I've ever come across, but it is made in the UK, which is
brilliant.
awesome.
Sheffield steel is heads and shoulders above the rest of the world in some regards.
Yeah,
you know,
I found
still
a couple
very highly
of,
esteemed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Found a couple of old tools in various skips and dump shops that are rusted over, and when I've got the rust off and it says Sheffield, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and it's funny how, even like you said there about the heritage crossovers, and it's kind of going on a slight digression, but even how the hair is removed from a leather skin goes, crosses over with heritage lime works. Traditionally in time, when mortar was being made, traditionally it was banked up in big piles of the sand and the quicklime integrated together. Quicklime's limestone that's been burnt in a kiln, which becomes calcium oxide. When you add water to that, it then slakes, so it's an exothermic reaction. So when combined with the sand, that's what makes a cohesive mortar. But they'd cover that with the hair on leather skins. The lime would strip the hairs off. The hair would go into the mortar, which was useful for plasterers and renderers.
That's incredible.
When they started to render. So it's like, these links in steps in like heritage crafts, and then you suddenly start unpicking how things might have actually got discovered, and then you think, well, maybe that's how they discovered lime removed hairs, and how hairs performed in mortars. And
it's this web of skills that's incredible. We started off at blacksmithing, and then you end up getting into like building materials,
and they all interlink and rely on each other.
Like traditional coppice fencing, split out with throws and stuff. They would have all been traditionally hand
And these guys
forged.
still use lime to strip the hair.
Brilliant.
From their
Yeah,
huts.
exactly.
They've got big lime pits.
Oh, they do. Yeah. They do.
We need to visit that place.
It's honestly, it's so cool.
So cool.
And I guess it's even like today when you were adjusting there was a hammer and you were a hand forged nail straight into top. I thought that was just like, I was like, you've made this nail and now you're hammering it into another
Now
hammer.
we've got the hot weather and my hammerhead's come loose.
Talking about handles coming loose, actually, how do you ensure when you fit a handle that they stay on?
Great question, Tom.
So we learned this the hard way, to be honest, because we've been really fortunate to work with some really amazing people, including using wood from their woodland for the handles of their axes, which I think is amazing. But we learned the hard way how dry the wood has to be, and we sent one of the axes out to Arizona, which, as you can imagine, is a desert, basically. Living in a desert. And the head came a little bit wobbly, so we said, send it back. We guarantee the quality of the materials and craftsmanship with everything we make. So send it back, we'll sort it out. By the time we got back here, it was tight again. So then we're like, right, well, this is clearly an issue we need to sort. So what we built was a handle sauna. We have a heater in an insulated box where we store all of our handles.
Lovely.
And it's at a constant 34 degrees. And what we do is we stick all the handles in there when they arrive. They're in there until the moisture content has dropped as low as it's going to go. And then we fit them to their axes then. So it doesn't matter where you send it in the world, that wood is only going to expand.
So
I've had that before where
it.
an axe has had a handle that wasn't low in moisture and it came loose, and I had to then whack it back on and put in metal wedges and stuff. So it's nice to know that you guys have thought about that and added it as part of your process.
The bit that people always forget about is the wedge. So we kiln dry all the wedges. We've got some digitally controlled kilns, and we kiln dry all the wedges because you can buy kiln dried wood from a wood supplier for like furniture or anything like that. Cut it into wedges, put it in the kiln, and it will shrink by 2 to 3 millimeters.
Wow,
Which is a lot.
Because that's the relative humidity to our atmosphere or our environment, isn't it? And that's not really something you can change.
No.
You're not in control
So
of it.
something that we haven't mentioned actually is what we use. We obviously use ash, like for those people listening and watching.
Beautiful wood.
We use ash because it's the traditional European way to handle axes.
Yes.
So ash has loads of benefits, and one, we like it because it's traditional. Two, we like it because it looks pretty. And three, it doesn't give the same reverb.
No.
It's so shock, I don't know, like absorbing,
You got me
it
to
whips.
wham it, literally take the biggest axe you guys make, wham it as
90
hard as I
degrees
could, square into a log just to feel the vibration. or the lack of vibration, because it didn't jar me at all. And I chop a lot of wood in my woods, and buck and fell and things with axes, because I like to do it traditionally where I can, and it does make a difference. There is less impact.
That's normally the bit you feel when you're splitting with the axe. It's not the impact with the log you're splitting, it's the impact with the stump underneath or the block underneath, and with that you just, it's like a solid glide straight through.
And then with hickory it hurts sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can be quite jarring.
Yeah, it does hurt. And we tested it against it, so we got some hickory handles made, and we obviously have loads of ash handles made, and we've been testing them, like literally. You've seen the video earlier, we're jumping up and down on them when they were resting on two logs. Very dodgy, wouldn't recommend it at home. But yeah, and there is no difference. There is, there's no difference in robustness, there's no difference in toughness, and we can confidently say this because we're testing it. We're testing it. It's not learnt from, it's not hearsay, Chinese whispers, it's it's something that we've had to learn.
It's a wood renowned for its sort of ability to bounce back. It's got enough flex in it to have that strength.
Definitely.
And it's why it is such a useful wood. And we were talking about this earlier, because I fell into a preconception trap, which you guys corrected me on, because you guys passed me an axe, and being a nerd, I immediately turned it over to look at the grain orientation on the handle. As you do, because from Reddit and our bushcraft and all that sort of stuff, all the internet people, it's been conditioned into us as axe buyers to always check the grain orientation. But you guys have tested that, haven't you? And then I've got a story about sapwood and heartwood, and I think let's put some myths to rest.
This is going to piss a lot of people off. Your comment section is going to blow up.
But we have actually tested this. This is, it's not just knowledge gained from other people. This is first-hand experience, tested knowledge. So traditionally, all the advice out there says that the grain should run front to back, so it should be in a straight line from the pole to the edge if you're looking down on the top of the axe. And obviously you want complete growth rings through the handle. That makes complete sense, because you don't want loads of growth rings running out, because you need complete fibres, like a big bundle of spaghetti. But often if the grain is running perpendicular to the axe, people will just not look at it at all. Which I find really entertaining, because if you're making a longbow, which has to bend and spring back time after time after time after time, it's defended England for years.
Which people use ash for, right, as well?
Ash is a wonderful wood for making longbows. What grain orientation do you use for a bow? The opposite of common knowledge for an axe handle.
Exactly.
Because it's got that inherent spring, because you're using the natural lamination of the growth rings.
That's it.
Now, I'm not saying that the traditional way is bad at all, because it clearly works. I'm just saying that it works the other way too.
Don't discard a perfectly good axe because the grain orientation is slightly off the traditional.
Especially if it's a shorter axe as well. You're not you aren't swinging it hard, you can't anywhere near hard enough to break
You said earlier when we talked about this, like on a really heavy splitter or a maul, you could see the thinking behind it. But on, say, a 20-inch forest axe, you're not going to be able to put enough force into it to be able to break it. And you've stood on these handles, haven't you?
So I
jumped up and down.
I literally, this is a 900mm handle. It's nearly a metre long, and I put a log at each end, stood in the middle, so the grain orientation was, by conventional knowledge, wrong, and jumped up and down on it. I weigh 84 kilos, and it just springs. It's like a trampoline. It's wonderful. But my theory is that idea of the grain orientation comes from mass production axes, because there's much less focus on the geometry of the head. Because if you make the geometry of the axe head right, there is far less strain on the axe handle.
That makes sense.
If you just sharpen a lump of steel, put a stick in it and call it a splitting axe, that handle has to put up with so much punishment. And so you have to be far more selective over the wood you use, which is incredibly unsustainable.
Would you say even with that, the machining effort of going across the grain for making the handles and the mass manufacturing is just like an extra step that they don't want to have to take, you know? Because obviously running with the grain going upwards, everything's working in your favours, but across the grain you can come into all sorts of issues with woodworking, especially tearing and stuff like that.
Absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah. And I think if we have the ability to be able to test the geometry of axes, we can change our tooling, we can change what we do to change the shape of the axe head and find what works best. Like with our splitting axes, you know, you look at the buzzard and you have a convex edge which then goes into a really wide concave sweep.
Yes.
Which is normal for a splitting axe. But then behind that it tapers off again as you go round the iron into the pole. And that's what means it doesn't get stuck. So you don't have so much abuse on the handle.
I mean, we just used it just before we started recording.
It throws the wood away.
It does. And we
just throws it away.
We smashed it into a knotty piece.
We did.
And it still went through.
We did.
It ripped the knot out, didn't it?
Just when a normal splitting maul or another splitting axe would just get wedged in there.
And then we tried things that you'd never attempt with a splitting maul, just to see could it do them. And we took material down as if it was a carving axe. It's not. It's a huge splitting axe. I went over and bucked a tree because we want to test it. I wanted to feel the whether or not it does like recoil into you. That's not the
it's
right
balanced
word,
and it's light.
And it is
the thing, isn't it? And you can choke up on it.
The edge geometry is perfect, so it does have that bite.
And this is all. We've been able to like get to this point through skill, through blacksmithing, through skill. So if you like a way a lot of axes are made is like drop forging. So to create another die for drop forging costs so much money.
I can imagine.
A lot of money. They're not tweaking bits that are wrong with that.
No.
If your eye is too small, you're not tweaking that because it's for whatever reason you decided to keep it that side, or you know there's a bit that you want. They can't change it, but Joe makes some axes, goes, oh, what do you think of that? And we test it out, and you go, this needs to be a little bit longer here. All right, I'll make another one tomorrow, a bit longer. But that's only done through skill. And I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, you should be as well, because I got quite excited swinging those.
Would you guys say, on that kind of note as well, would you say there's a favourite piece that you've both got your own sides of your input to each piece? Would you say collaboratively there's been a piece that's been your pride and joy to work on? Would you say that is your splitter, or would you say it's hard to pinpoint, I guess, a hard one as a maker?
My favourite thing is normally the thing I've just made. But I think my current favourite is the kite. So the kite is slightly smaller than the buzzard. It's on a 700 and something millimetre handle.
That's a lovely
It's a more packable size, but the performance is still there. Still got the integral colour, still got the same blade profile, and I absolutely love it. It's just such a great package.
I think for me, I really enjoy green woodworking and carving, and the Merlin is a little bit special. So the Merlin is the carving axe that we produce, and we've worked with the guys from Woodsmith for quite a few months to really tailor it to what we think is the perfect. You know, it's very subjective. I get it. It's very, very subjective. But what we think is a perfect carving axe. And that's made out of 52-100 steel.
Nice.
So the edge retention is insane. Absolutely insane. And it's just a gorgeous axe that I know. I don't know why. I just feel like that's my favourite one. It's got these gently faceted facets in the handle, so you can't see them, but you can feel them. So when you're working with it, it just feels really natural. That's the one I'd say I'm most proud of, because it feels like a combination of our efforts, Woodsmith, and then other people like giving us information, and then coming together and just going, okay, this is it, and then putting it out into the world, and the feedback's been insane. Like we can't keep them in stock. We send a load over to Woodsmith, who just buy them from us, and that's just for a cash flow purpose. Like we can't. You know, it's a lot to run a business for just a couple of people. So, and posting sharps is really complicated in the UK. So the Woodsmith have been great, and they retail all of our axes. So getting them out into the world is incredible.
I know I'm going to be going on to Woodsmith's website very soon.
Have you guys, just out of curiosity, got a favourite kind of anthem for the forge. Yeah, to
Oh,
get
yeah,
you
Forge
motivated.
bangers.
Yeah, Forge bangers.
Music is Sam's department. I just
I don't really know. It can really depend from like liquid drum and bass to really get into
Nice.
like the ethereal kind of mindset, and to just some. You'll notice it from our videos actually, just like, you know, country folk,
Nice, love
like
it. Yeah,
slide
good stuff.
guitar
Yeah,
vibes, where it just feels Southwest. I don't know what it is.
Hillbilly
Just
banjo starts playing.
yeah, Southwest and a really croaky guy singing. Perfect. Yeah, no, that fits the vibe as well.
Sounds good.
I love that. Yeah, no, it's evident that you guys have got a really good thing going on down there, and it's come from a place of passion. You know,
and I have to say, you know, it's definitely not just us two. We've
Yeah.
got
Oh,
some,
absolutely
we've
not.
got, you know, Jimmy, Tom, Will, the guys working here are outstanding. Their skill level was off the chart, and they, you know, they don't own the business. But the passion and the effort they put in is unreal. Like,
we can
couldn't
see
do
them
it without
working hard down with your students
Yeah,
today, and it's
Jimmy and Tom are teaching today.
yeah.
Fantastic. They're so good at what they do.
Incredibly talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw some of the knives, you know, just quickly glanced at them as he was walking past. So the knives he was holding that were obviously made by the students. They're all beautiful
amazing.
pieces, weren't they?
Yeah.
So it's it's testament to, you know, what did you say? It's 2 years, 2 or 3 years?
2 years.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, just 2 years. It's a big
crazy.
testament to, you know, two great minds coming together. I think that really shows, doesn't it?
I think the biggest thing we've learned, and one of the core reasons why it's working so far, is, and we've grown really fast, is because we make decisions really well together. That's been the core of it, and I assume it's the same with you guys. Like, there's no indecision is better than is terrible. Like, you need to have, even if it's the wrong decision, we just fail forward. So we don't never hesitate, and we're just like, let's get it done. If something breaks, we learn from it, we move on. We don't get down from it. And
we're the same, and like if we need to pick one or the other up, we will.
Yeah, we're quite robust like that. Which I think comes from
shared experience.
Yeah, literally, and it comes from again, kind of goes down to bushcraft, doesn't it? That self-reliance, but being able to be there for other people as well.
I think, you know, when you've got a bushcraft sort of brother in arms, you sort of know you've got one.
Yeah, absolutely.
True bonds are made in the woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is that we share the same purpose. And I think that is the biggest thing that will ever connect two people. If you share the same values and they share the same purpose. And what we want to do is we want our tools to be the catalyst between people and the nature they're interacting with.
Love that.
People interact with nature via the tools they're holding in their hand. And what we want to do is to make that combination, that transition, that meeting between a person and nature as smooth and seamless and as pleasurable as possible.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it? It's because too many people, like you say, have that. It's not a. I don't want to say a disconnect because it makes it sound like it's purposeful, but you know, there's not enough focus on that in the middle bit. There's a lot of like you say, getting the tool and to kind of what the tool's meant to do, but that bit in between is really important to understanding or mastering anything.
And I've always felt a special connection. I've been scoffed at by people before because of how obsessed I am with the tools I carry. And like, I could have a different knife on my hip one trip to another, and I'll treat them each with this sort of reverence because, as you say, it is my way of feeling the world around me, and I know what I can do with the tool, and I know if I was carrying one of your axes, the opportunities it would open up for me in terms of the craft I could do. And I think a tool is a very special thing. I still remember one of my first Gransfors axes. I went and got a summer job because I couldn't afford it without one. So I went and I did the work. Like, it was a really rubbish job. It was like clearing out a basement that had been water damaged of all of these like legal documents, and I was just pulling through mouldy wet paper and trying to find, I probably shouldn't say this, but I was trying to find wills in the water, and I saved up from that job enough to buy a Gransfors Scandinavian forest axe, and every time I swing that forest axe I feel I'm like, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I sifted through the mouldy paper because I
Absolutely.
still have this tool now. And
I was just going to say, where there's a will, there's a way.
I love that.
Oh, very good. Oh, very good.
And this is an interesting thing that we brought up earlier, and then you were like, I've been saying this for years, you know, because part of that special nature of tools is that individuality and that character that it has, and that's part of the reason we individually number stamp all our axes.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
Everybody who has one of our axes has a number, regardless of what that number is, but that is their number. And
Ray Mears has number 6 Harrier.
Yes, he does.
Really?
Yeah,
Can I get
I
number
keep a little
7?
geeky. I keep a little geeky spreadsheet of like who's got.
That's amazing.
Ray Mears has got one. Ben Fogle's got one.
Oh,
nice.
Number 24. Joe Price.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got one.
Nice.
MCQ.
Awesome guy. MCQ Bushcraft. Yeah.
Paul
Mike
Kirtley.
Nicholson.
Paul Kirtley.
Yeah,
Paul Kirtley.
Definitely going to have to get
Shout out to Paul
double
Kirtley.
numbers.
Yeah.
I need to get in there before it goes into the
Yes,
hundreds.
I need to get one. We'll let you know our numbers when we
Told you
get
that
one.
marketing
Yes,
trick
it
was really
works,
good.
I think I was a sworn customer the second I walked through the Forge doors, to be honest,
Fantastic.
boys.
Yeah, your eyes just went like axe handles.
but you know, people love that, and people have been that way about knives for a long time, and people are used to spending £500, £600, £700, £800 on a knife, and it's normal. But as soon as you cross that £300 mark with an axe, people get really shy about it,
Which is strange
because
yeah.
you know, we make knives too, so I'm definitely not knocking any knife makers saying this. Making that buzzard is so much harder.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at the size of the handle you got to make.
Yeah. And the amount of materials.
Just the amount of material.
Especially as how you're doing it and that care and attention that goes into each and every axe. I mean, just as a little, this is only one tiny bit that you showed us today, but you showed us how to chamfer the edges. Even the fire steels they make, they chamfer over the edges with the anvil and the hammer. So that there aren't rough edges.
Yeah.
And it's like that attention to detail is such a small thing.
Just makes that little difference.
But it makes it levels it up.
Yeah, it does. And it's and also just from seeing the amount of work that goes into making a fire steel, and obviously granted with experience that becomes easier, but the experience had to be earned. You know, you can just see the amount of work that goes into one of them just by glancing at it. So yeah, it's a very.
I do understand why
impressive
people,
piece.
you know, in this day and age, like £300 plus is not an insignificant amount of money.
No.
It's
No,
a lot of
absolutely.
money, and well, I totally understand that. And people haven't seen really refined axes like in this way before. Or there are very, very few people in the world making them. There are some fantastic axe makers in the UK, but there's only 4 or 5, and you know, they're fantastic people and we know them, and we're trying to build that community as well. But people haven't seen this before, so the best thing for us really is to get these into people's hands. If you're at the Bushcraft show, please come along and I will let you handle one of these.
Oh, definitely.
I'll let you pick it up and have a look and feel it, and you'll instantly know the difference. It's like picking up one of Josh's knives and then picking up, you know, a cheap knife that you bought from B&Q or something like that. There's so much difference. One has
absolutely. And can I just say as well, the positivity you guys have for other makers' stuff is really admirable, because we've seen quite a lot of sort of competitiveness in sort of the behind the scenes.
Which
in
there's no space, there's no room.
There's
for
no
that.
need for it.
No.
So you guys
too
handled
small.
Josh's knives, Fired Woods. You guys handled obviously your own Stony Path knives. Field and Steels. You've seen Field and Steels that we've got, because we brought a selection of our tools with us, and you guys had nothing but amazing things, like compliments for them, because they're all brilliant tools.
And there's an economic reason behind this as well, and that the competition doesn't grow the market.
No.
What grows the market is us educating as a community of knife makers, blacksmith, bushcraft, you know, the whole axe makers, us educating the wider public about what we do, how we do it, and why they should buy our stuff and support us over everyone else is the important thing. It's not me important saying, well, hang on a minute, this blade here could have done with this. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What's important to us is working with people to grow that part of the market. If it's a bigger slice of the pie, then there's more to go around.
Exactly.
We're not fighting over the same small slither of pie.
Exactly. And there's more people having that interaction with nature and the heritage crafts that they'll be supporting.
Yeah, which is the ultimate kind of goal for all of us. You know, I came into bushcraft just for the pure love of it, as I'm sure
Same as me.
all of us have. You know, and it's if we can make that space more tolerant or more open-minded or more accessible to people, whether that's through the podcast or whether that's through the courses you guys run, you know, that's really the ultimate goal in it. And you know, the tools, like you said, if that's a gateway for someone to say, actually, I've got a tool here that justifies me learning how to use it properly, then again, you've already won half the battle, haven't you? So I think it's like a massively important and admirable point, like Tom said, because there's too much infighting in a space that's, in reality,
it's not big enough.
It's very small.
It's not big enough anyway. Let's
all be friends.
Let's all be friends. Let's all hold hands and go together.
Go around the fire in a circle.
That's the mentality, right? That's the mentality.
It's good to like support each other because we're all like-minded individuals. We've all got similar interests and we're outside for the similar reasons. And I think if we're focusing on fighting ourselves, we're making it easier.
The only ones to compete against is just mass production in really poor countries. That's the competition,
of course.
And there's only two ways to do business, and it's low cost, high volume. Like in, sorry, I've had a beer and it's gone straight to my head. Low cost, high volume, or high volume. Low cost.
Well, the thing is as well, and
no, you said I said the same thing twice.
Low cost, high volume. High cost, low volume.
High cost, low volume.
That's it. We got there.
Oh my God, just one beer. What have you put in it?
It's that Somerset beer.
Yeah, it's the Somerset beer.
But it kind of goes down to as well, like, you know, when you say that the quality and volume, and it goes down to, again, having the making people understand that's always very hard.
Really hard.
You know, a lot of people will just see for example, like it could even be a bushcraft course, and they'll say, like, blimey, but they don't think about the amount of hours that's gone into being able to convey that, or the same with your craftsmanship, being able to put out an axe series, you know, like an actual range of axes as a hand forged blacksmith is bloody incredible, really. You know, because it's like repetition, quality control, you know, confidence in your product, confidence in your research, being able to say, well, I'm happy with Ray Mears using this axe because I know it's not going to let him down. Like if I knew Ray Mears was going to have one of my axes, I'd be like,
we had this discussion beforehand, before we gave them out to a few notable people that we said, you know, would really love your feedback. It's no strings attached. Joe Price was one as well, and Paul Kirtley and some other guys as well. And we said, look, we just want your feedback. We're just like interested. That isn't, you know, it's a knife through the heart if they're rubbish. Because they're just going to turn around and say, you know, they're rubbish, and then that's the end of Thorn Wood. But we have so much confidence behind what we do that we can do that.
It's a very vulnerable position to be in.
Really vulnerable, that's the word I'm trying to...
But we really back ourselves.
But I like it because, like,
you need to, because your products speak for themselves.
Yeah, and it could all just be, you know, as so many people seem to, it could all just be, excuse the French, bitching and kind of like comparative, but to see some makers who are actually trying to push the scene forward, like, you know, very much with what we're trying to do with the podcast, it's really refreshing to see that. And UK prices warrant UK products warrant good prices, because at the end of the day it's not only contributing towards your forge growing, but your children going to have a nice holiday.
And also, like, we've had this quite a bit, no one's forcing anyone to buy anything. No. You know? It's like, if you don't want to spend that much on an axe, then probably it's not the right axe for you. I mean, I've got axes for free in rubbish tips, which actually turned out to be Elwell's. If you look out, you can find stuff and restore it yourself if you don't want to spend the money.
And it definitely
if you
becomes
do, you will
contagious.
have a fantastic lifelong heirloom tool. And we've had comments on both of our YouTube channels like, oh, why are you showing off expensive gear, you're a sellout, etc. We're like, no, we saved up for this over months because it's something we wanted, because we're at a point in our bushcraft journeys where we like trying out different things.
And we've often said we've both still got our first moorers.
Same.
We would
same.
100% say, as we said earlier, my fired woods knife on my hip is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
But if you don't want to spend the money on a fancy knife, a Mora will do you fine.
Exactly.
And I do recommend sometimes people don't buy our axes, because if it's someone who's come to us and go, I'm just getting into bushcraft, I need a knife and I need an axe, we'll go, okay, buy buy a Mora.
It's like driving a Ferrari for your first car.
It's like you're not going to get a Ben Orford as your first knife, are you?
No, go and learn how to sharpen on a 15-pound Mora. Then you can ruin that one, maybe it's what.
And then you'll have your Thorn Wood or your Ben Orford or
Field
Field and Steel forever.
We have a light.
We do have a light.
Yeah, the dark just came in really quick then, didn't it?
It did. I mean, we were just so busy chatting, we didn't even notice it. It got dark around us. So we thought we'd pause the camera and Liam went off into the woods, didn't get lost luckily, and found us a light. So we've just got a last couple of questions before we sort of wrap up.
It's been really, really amazing just to get to know a little bit about you guys and the history of what you got, where you came from, and just how much love and passion you obviously have for the craft. It's been great, hasn't it?
And also all of the work and skill that's gone into making such a amazingly finished and well realised product.
Yes, they're just super refined.
They're amazing, and swinging them, like looking at them is one thing, but when you swing them and feel the wood just fly apart.
We're going to go and have a play with the Osprey tomorrow morning. So.
Yes, please. I'll start with my sort of final question. If you're going to use an axe, I use an axe in my woods all the time, and sometimes on one day I might prefer taking a big fallen ash and bucking it into sections or sectioning it into usable lengths, and I find that really fun. Other times I might be flattening a surface and making a bench, something like that. Sometimes I'll be using an axe for fine carving. I'll be felling trees, and obviously all of my firewood I get from the woods and I split. So there's obviously lots of different uses for an axe. Also, I reenact Vikings for the kids at school, so slaying enemies is one.
Nice,
Awesome.
So there are lots of different uses for an axe. So my last question to you guys is, when you're using an axe, what's your favourite thing to do with it?
I thought I touched on this earlier, but definitely carving. Making it's funny that it's like toolception. You're making tools to make tools to make tools, right? So you know, in the workshop, we're making tools to make axes, and then I'm using this axe to make a spoon, and which is another tool for the kitchen. And I really like that. I really like carving. I've got a little setup in my garden.
Lovely.
And, so I'd say that's that for me. Yeah, carving.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
I think on a deeper level, I completely agree. Carving, whether you're carving out a bow stave or a canoe paddle, it's just so intrinsic to bushcraft. Absolutely love it. But then on a much shallower level, I absolutely love snedding. Just like de-limbing when you've got like
So
a
satisfying.
2, 3, 4, 5 inch, and you're like, I can do it. And it just takes off in one, and you're like, I
don't know if you've ever used, so I've got the Gransfus double bit throwing axe. I don't use it for throwing, I just use it for fun. But snedding with that is so fun.
Nice.
And it makes sort of like this ding.
It rings.
It rings, and it's like the most satisfying noise, because you get a swish through the air because it's so thin, like the bit's so thin, and then you get this ding, and it's like that's my favourite. I love it.
That's brilliant.
So carving and snedding.
Nice.
I like that. Yeah, and I guess for me to wrap up, my question to both of you would be, are there any historical pieces that if you had one opportunity you'd love to try and, work on recreating or designing something that's inspired off of it? Is there a piece, it doesn't have to be a knife or a blade or any kind of tool that the blacksmith's forge allows for. Is there anything that's kind of always, if I could, if I had the spare time?
While you guys are thinking about that, I know, Liam, you really want to make a spear or get a spearhead made.
Yes. Yeah.
And I obviously I'm focused on the axe now, so my finances won't let me think about two things. But I love the idea of forging a sea axe, like an Anglo-Saxon sea axe, because I've recently made one from an old bill hook, but that was using an angle grinder, and it was just not the nice process of hammering.
Well, we should all be allowed them, shouldn't we? We're Anglo-Saxons at heart.
Exactly. So I think,
right.
Liam, you probably agree. Yours is a spearhead, and mine would probably be a sea axe, like an Anglo-Saxon sea axe. So yeah,
I think for me, back to the carving again, I'd quite like to make a spoon knife.
Nice.
I mean, it's just there are some incredibly talented people out there doing these. Just one of them, Adam Ashworth, just to plug him. Amazing guy up in Leeds. He makes some amazing scorps and spoon knives and things like that. And it's just not something that I don't think we'd do. Like as well, I'm not going to write it off, but it's not something high on the priority list.
Yeah, of course,
for us. But something for me personally, I'd quite like to make a spoon knife. I think
that's really nice.
I'm going to cheat because technically all the tools we make have a historical basis.
I like it.
You'll get wedgied.
Definitely. As you know, he's strong. I take him on.
Go on, try. Got a big axe. I want to make an entire toolkit and then take it on expedition.
Nice.
So every tool I'm using on expedition, I want to make all the tools, then use them to make my birch bark canoe.
Love that.
Use them to make my paddles, use them to make everything I need for a wilderness expedition.
So like making everything down to an awl or something.
Everything down to an awl, and that for me is a complete circle.
And then you could use all of the tools there to make all of your cutlery and things.
That for me is bushcraft.
Yeah, fully.
Yeah, I think that sums it up, doesn't it?
It is. And I think the interconnectedness of everything bushcraft is what makes it so interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys have told me about some of your expeditions and trips you've done. I'm going to Sweden in not very long at all, actually.
Yeah, it's not far. I was going to be coming with you, but it's crossover with the Bushcraft show, which I had commitments for.
Yeah, so Liam will be representing the Wodesman at the Bushcraft show.
I will.
And I will be representing the Wodesman in Sweden.
Wodesman International.
Yeah.
We'll have to do an international show.
Yes, well, I did think that, actually. I might record a little bit, and then you can record a little bit at the Bushcraft show, and we can put them together.
Marry them together, definitely.
But that leads us quite nicely into sort of signing off, I think.
Yeah,
I think so. We could talk for hours, but it's pitch black now. So I think let's save some topics. Let's save some topics for future episodes, and hopefully we can talk to you guys again in the future.
Absolutely.
And I can pop over to you guys at the Bushcraft show, which is where you're going to be as well this year.
Yeah, we will be at the Bushcraft show. We're going to be running courses where you can do as these guys have done, come and make your own fire steel. And we will also have all our axe range and a bunch of knives. So come and say hello. If you come and see us, just shout Wodesman at us and we'll know where you heard about us.
10% extra on the price.
And give you a wedgie, apparently. But still do it, because we want them to know that we are useful.
Absolutely. We appreciate you having us on. It's really great for us to be able to speak directly with the bushcraft community in this way.
Yeah. And likewise, just having the opportunity to come down. I know I could speak for Tom when I say it's been an absolutely incredible day.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to the world of blacksmithing that I'm I'm looking forward to hopefully coming on a few more experiences with you guys.
We've both already talked about how we'd both like to come back and do some of the courses that you guys run here, because just that little taster has whetted the appetite.
Yeah, it's quite a magical process.
I'm ready for the main course.
Absolutely.
And I mean, on that note, guys, is there anything that you want to convey to our listeners and viewers?
Please tell them where to find your axes as well, where to purchase them.
Yeah, so
new bits upcoming, everything.
Yeah, for sure. So some new cool bits that we've got coming out soon. We've got a knife coming out with Fortis. That's a whole podcast in itself, but we've got a video on YouTube. So watch that video
very exciting.
That's pretty
stuff.
cool.
And that was filmed by Owen.
It was.
Yes, it was. He is a top chap. I know you guys said he's been on this podcast.
He has a couple of times actually.
He's a great lad, Owen. Really, really nice chap.
He collects the number 25 of the Thorn Wood Forge. So what's funny is because we number them, some people are like, oh, when number whatever comes up, my number, can I buy that please? So he's number 25. So we owe him a couple of axes now. So
nice.
He got number 25 area when he filmed our Axes and Anvils film, and then he's picked up the others since then.
Yeah, he has. So
love that.
So where to find us? So thornwoodforge.com. We retail all of our stuff through Woodsmith. We've got some redirect links through there. And Instagram, YouTube.
Yep.
And that's pretty much it. So big thanks from us at Thorn Wood Forge.
Honestly, it's been amazing, guys. Really has.
It's been a real special day for me, like to actually have a go at that. So thank you so much for having us.
No problem.
We appreciate it.
And we'll put all of the links to your shop, where people can find you, all of the information down in the show notes. So anyone watching, thank you for sticking in and sticking with us for this long. If you've been listening, we hope you've enjoyed the podcast. And I guess until next time, we'll see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. And do go and say hi to these guys at the Bushcraft show. Thanks for listening and watching.
Guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.